So here's our problem. We're going to create a story context for 2/3 divided by 3/4 and use a visual fraction model to show the quotient. We'll use the same story context that was presented in the content standard. How many 3/4 cup servings are there in 2/3 cups of yogurt? When your students create these story contexts, it's important to be sure that the problem that they generate results in dividing 2/3 by 3/4 and not the other way around. In this problem, we can see that we have 2/3 cups of yogurt total, and we're dividing it into groups, each of which is 3/4 cups. So that's the language in this problem that specifies that we're going to divide 2/3 by 3/4 and not the other way around. There's another thread in this series that discusses the generation of story problems and how to be sure that and how to understand the direction of the division that comes up in the problem. In this case, though, we'll go on and use a double bar chart to explore this. We're going to begin by representing 1 cup of yogurt as this blue bar, and then break that into 3 equal parts, shading 2 of them to represent 2/3 of a cup. So this is 2/3 of a cup. That's the yogurt we have. We also need to represent the 3/4 cup, the size of a serving. And so here's another cup. We'll break it into 4 equal parts and shade 3 of them. And so we get this pink shaded region representing 3/4 of a cup. So our problem is now, how many times does this pink shaded region fit into the tan shaded region? And you'll notice immediately that the answer is less than 1. You will not get a full serving, 3/4 cup, out of only 2/3 cups of yogurt because there's less yogurt than a full serving. So we're going to end up with a fraction of a serving as our result. Specifically, what we need to know is what part of this pink does this tan represent. And so we look at this area right in here, which is the key idea. We have this excess amount here. Here is 1 full 2/3 cup, and the important value is what's left over. So this is a piece that's left over, and we want to know of this whole, what was previously shaded pink, that whole part, what part is this? If we know what part this is, then we can figure out what the fraction is. So it all boils down to the size of this unit here. And as we'll see, it's similar to the issue of multiplication, finding a common unit in which to represent both the 2/3 cup and the 3/4 cup. So when we look at this, we see that this is approximately 1/3 of one of these quarters. And if we draw the other 2/3, then we see that we get 3 of these parts in 1/4 of the whole. And we can continue breaking up the rest of the quarters into 3 parts, and we'll realize, we can see that we'll get 9 total units here if we break each of these quarters into 3 parts. So what is the size of that unit? Well, the size of that unit, if we break this additional quarter also into 3, we recognize that now what we've done is we've broken the whole into 12 equal parts, 3 for each of the quarters. So this is basically 1/12, and you'll recognize that as the common denominator of the 3 and the 4, the 2 fractions involved. And what that means is that we can also break this 2/3 cups into 12ths. Now we just kind of guessed when we first picked this 3, but what we're seeing now is that breakdown, the unit size that we need, is actually based on the common denominator between the 3 and the 4. So let's break this other cup into 12ths, and what we'll see is that 2/3 cups is exactly 8 12ths, and